My name is Carla Sanchez O'Connell, the O'Connell part because I married an Irishman. I'm originally from Mexico City, and I'm very, very proud of my cultural heritage from Mexico, which is why when I came here, I talked to my husband about sharing some of it with some of the community. And we live out in Folksmills, which is a little village about 30 minutes away from Wexford town. And we designed a house where we can do events throughout the year. And one of those events will be the Day of the Death. The Day of the Death is really a celebration of those who have passed away. It's a bit similar to what the Irish people, or some Irish people, do already, where they have in a corner in their house, they have a little place where they have remembrance cards, except that in Mexico we do it louder, and we only do it for these 2 days in the year that are the 1st and the 2nd of November. The Day of the Dead is a tradition that originally comes from the Aztecs, but now, because of the Catholic influence in Mexico, it's really a tradition now that belongs to both sides, the pagan tradition of the Aztecs and the Catholic side. And so we have a celebration where we create an altar piece with different photographs of the deceased, and we put music and flowers and food. The flowers that are traditional to this celebration are the cempasúchitl. I think in English it's marigold. The flowers are orange and yellow. So these flowers, their petals are spread all around the table. I remember being a kid and looking forward to this time of the year because I could see photographs of people that I never knew, of course, physically because they had long passed. But I was able to ask my parents about them, and then they were able to tell me the stories of my grandparents, my great-grandparents, or cousins that I never knew, etc. It's a much more a celebratory occasion because it is very much about life, more so than death. It's not a sad occasion. It's a joyful occasion where you celebrate the links that you have to the past, to the people that were before you, but also with the future, with the next generations, with kids, and that's why we want to share this with our local community in Folksmills, because I think it's something that anyone, regardless of your background and your origin, you can always relate to this, to wanting to belong to something that transcends time, and in a way this does it very well, I think.
My name is Billy Doyle. I'm from Rosslare, the borough in Rosslare. I'm involved with the Rosslare Lifeboat Men's Memorial Committee. I'm actually chairman of that. Have been for a number of years now. My late father was chairman as well. And we erected a memorial in the borough for the crew of the James Stephens lifeboat. The memorial in the borough is commemorating an awful tragedy of the Keurig Rocks down off of Fethard, which the schooner Mexico went in on the rocks and was broken up. And likewise the lifeboat, the Helen Blake from Fethard, went to her rescue, and she was broken up on the rocks. And 9 of those men were drowned. 5 survived. It's a long story, but it involved our own lifeboat, James Stephens from Rosslare Fort, and the Tug Wexford. And the Tug Wexford was involved because she towed our boat, the Rosslare boat, around to Fethard. Dunmore boat was also involved, and Kilmore boat was involved. So it was a lot of lifeboats, RLNI lifeboats from around the coast were involved in it. It was a total disaster and was an awful thing for Fethard. But it was very heroic, and our crew all, thank God, came home safe. And that's why the monument is erected in the borough, to commemorate those and to commemorate all lifeboat service people. It was unveiled in 1981, and it's supported by all the local shops and businesses around the village give us great support. Our 100th anniversary was 2014, so we had a big commemoration for that. We had people from all over Ireland and Norway and everywhere came for that commemoration. Then we got a huge upgrade thanks to Wexford County Council. So our committee then and myself, I thought of maybe we should upgrade the back of the monument to make a nice backdrop to it. So we decided to build a kind of a replica of the James Stephens in stone. We got an awful lot of help from our own committee and from locals in the area. I think now it's a fitting site for the monument, and it's a lovely place to go and reflect and sit down, and you can sit there of a nice summer's evening and watch the sun go down if you want. We will keep it going as long as we can, and we'll pass it on to, please God, to future generations, maybe my own son or people like that, just to keep it going and to keep the memory of those men alive.
My name is Catherine Keelty Dempsey. I was born and raised in Johnsgate Street in a little place called Mary's Bar. My parents bought the premises in the early 50s and ran it until my mother passed away in 1989 when I inherited the premises. My father was still alive and he lived over the premises for all of his life, and I stayed there with him even though I was married. And I looked after him to the best of my ability with the help of my sister, Mary. We have a traditional Irish pub. It's very small, it has no television. We try to keep tradition going in that, music, song. We don't have a place big enough for dance, so we can't keep the dancing going.
I ran me dog in Limerick and I ran her in Tralee. She ran in Enniscorthy and again in Carbery. She won a race in Thurles and she lost one in Athlone. She'd have ran away with the race that day, but she stopped to lick a bone.
Bad luck to gambling, I'm in an awful fix. Out of £4, 6 and 8 pence, all I have is 1 and 6. We'll go down to Shays or Kenny's and we'll drink a glass of grog. And we'll go home around on Brodie, singing Murphy's Running Dog.
Well, personally, I feel that the whole pub culture has changed over the years, definitely since I took over 29 years ago. It was the hub, especially at the weekends, that people used to meet and have a sing-song and stuff. And I just feel that I want to keep the whole culture going. I just love the place. It's home to me. No matter where I have ever gone, Johnsgate Street has always been home to me.
So my name is Bridget Connors and I'm living in Wexford for the last 50 years or more. My husband is from Wexford. I've never left Wexford town and the family now is all around. In the old days, we just get a dish and then we get our flour. Then we get the soda and we get the salt. And we'd start making the bread. So we'd have the fire lighting and the sparks would be able to come in from the fire and we'd be able to push them under the bake pot and we'd be able to leave the bake pot heat up and it'd be all hot and we'd have the bread mixed to go into it. Could be 2 cakes, could be 3 cakes. So then we got modern and we moved into a house and we went away from the caravan, we went away from the tents and we get the pan then, the metal pan, and we put it on the cooker and then we put the bread in and give them about 5 or 10 minutes to cook and you have your bread made. But that was ours. We used to do that. I used to do that. And my mother before me, she done that. And my grandmother, they done that. Loved the homemade bread and loved baking it. That time we had to do it anyhow. We didn't know nothing about sliced bread.
My name is Benny Maiden, and I moved from Ghana to Ireland 2000. And I was living in Dublin, and I met a Westford man in Dublin. And the rest of the history, we got married, and I moved to County Westford. And I'm here since 2001. Oware is a game, just two people will sit down. And you sit down and pray and see who is going to be a winner. But I brought it to my children here, and we pray at home, and all my neighbors, they know. You need a seed, it's about 48 pieces of small seed. Oware. Oware means marriage. That's the meaning of Oware. And it's two people have to sit down. That's why they call it Oware, because you need two people to play the game. I think it's really good for children if you to do nothing, just get up from your phone and just sit down, you know. How to play a game, simple game with your friend or your sibling. And a really enjoyable game. If you play, you really love it. And so easy, so easy to play. I'm trying to introduce to more my neighbors, and even for my children to introduce to their friends, people in Westford, to know, because it's a culture, we don't want to lose the culture.
I'm Ned Wall, an Uilleann Piper. I live in Duncannon, and I was born in Ballycalan, where I went to school. In national school then, teachers decided to organise music classes. We started music then on a Friday evening after school, we'd all go to classes. I started on the tin whistle, and Tom White, who's also a piper, is my granduncle, and Tom used to come visit us every Tuesday, and we'd have a new tune, and Tom would come and listen to us, and he'd advise me then on what to do right here, or rolls and ornamentation and stuff. I played the whistle and the flute for years, and Tom was always on to me. He said, "Ned, you'll have to play the pipes." And there was a practice set of pipes at home they used to be under the bed, and I used to take them out now and again, and now I'd put them back. And I remember one morning, I must have been 19 years of age, and I came down and Ciaran McMahon's programme was on, and I heard Paddy Keenan playing on the radio, and it just struck a chord with me then, the pipes did, and I started playing them hell for leather straight away. Well, Tom White, who was my granduncle, he found it hard to get good sets of pipes in the 60s, and he was a very inventive man, a very creative man, and he started making pipes, and he actually made very good sets of pipes. The set of pipes I play now, Tom made them for me in 1987, and they're absolutely fantastic set. My great-grandfather, Jim White, who's Tom's father, his hero was Johnny Dorn, the travelling piper. And my granny always tells the story that if Johnny Dorn was at a fair around somewhere in Wexford, that he would actually go. He could be gone for days to hear Johnny Dorn play. Johnny Dorn was like a rock star back in the 30s, I suppose. I get young lads coming to me today to learn pipes, and the same thing. Some of them, you know by their influences or who they listen to. Or you can hear actually in young lads playing, or some people playing, they just have a different note. They're coming from a place that they just have that blue note, or they have that soul in the music, and that's great. Like, you know, that's what drew me to it, piping. Inland piping is thriving in Wexford. There's no fear of piping dying out as it was in the 60s, or it's vibrant in the county at the minute. Like.
My name is Mirona Mara. I'm Romanian. I've been living in Wexford for the last 4 years. I'm a painter, a drawer, a filmmaker, a multidisciplinary artist. So I like telling stories with everything that I do visually. And I suppose I've been drawing all my life and painting. Lately I've been working with the traditional costume from my country, the stitched sign, and the patterns that are used to make the dresses and shirts and all that jewelry and the costume, basically. My grandmother was a dressmaker. She still is. She's in her late 80s, but she's still making beautiful dresses. So as a child, I used to watch her measuring the women, cutting the patterns, fitting the bodies with the beautiful dresses, and I was just fascinated with her way of working with the fabrics and the patterns. Nowadays, everything has to be maybe labeled. We have to fit in, but you discover that there's a place between patterns where you don't have to fit in, or you can fit in between the patterns. You can make your own way. That's part of my work now. I'm exploring that heritage, because it is in me. Even though I'm away from home, I have all that in my blood, in my memories, and I think it's important to keep that and put it forward. There's a beauty in bringing my own cultural heritage here, because I wouldn't do this at home. I'm nostalgic, I miss home. But Ireland became my home as well, so I'm trying to balance things. And it's quite interesting to explore that side of my life here, away from home. Because you tend, when you're away from your family, from your home, from the place you grew up, you see things perfect. You don't remember the bad stuff. So you only remember what's nice and beautiful and what feeds your soul. We all want to keep something from home. I think that makes the society colorful and interesting. No boring stuff there.
My name is Padraig Grant and I'm a photographer. I live in Wexford and I've travelled the world with my photography. My number one muse is Wexford town and its people. And what I really love about the familiar scene to me in Wexford, because I live here and I'm very familiar with every part of it, is that to find something fresh to say about it is always a challenge. And I find that because I've travelled so much and I spend an awful lot of time away from Wexford, that when I come back to Wexford, it's revealed with a fresh eye and it becomes new again. I like to photograph people and I like to photograph the way that they've shaped their landscape and the way they behave in their landscape. What I like about the mundane is that it reveals something very, very deep about the way we live our lives, and it's kind of universal in a way, because they're not major moments. They're in my work. It's very low scale. It's just a greeting between two people on a street, maybe. It might be the tilt of a head into the wind. It could be just the way the light falls on them. And I definitely blame my upbringing on High Street in the family home, which has been in the family for a long number of years, for my interest in photography, because we had a lodger, resident photographer back in the early part of the 20th century in our back garden, who had a Victorian studio. And my great-grandfather, who was also born in the house that I was born in, he dabbled in the dark arts as well. I really like the idea and the notion of passing on those skills that I've learned, particularly my darkroom skills, to the next generation. Because at the moment we're kind of maybe in danger of losing our touch with that sort of practical, hands-on, physical way of making pictures. My work has taken me all over the world. I've witnessed some amazing sights, some quite difficult to look at, but I wouldn't change 1 second of it for anything. I've predominantly shot in black and white, shot on film. I still shoot on film. Through my books and exhibitions and online, I have a huge collection now of photographs of a very changing Wexford, so that not necessarily right now are they immediately important maybe, but just add some time and suddenly those images become very important, because things change, and sometimes they change really quickly. Sometimes they change very gradually and just fade away.